What's your reaction to the fact that that this new prosecutor has been put in place and that he's going to reopen these cases, including Burisma?
Thank God. I mean, the fact is that this case was closed in October of 2016, right before the presidential election, by pressure from Joe Biden, bribe to Poroshenko. If they reopen it and they do a thorough investigation, it may lead right to the president of Ukraine, who allegedly may have been paid something for doing this. He was paid a lot for a lot of things, and they know that. They ran against him. But the reality is that this has to be investigated. And what Democrats have been doing for 2.5, 3 years is covering it up. And a lot of what they're doing with this impeachment thing is to cover up Biden. There's a couple of steps. Biden gets the prosecutor Shokin fired.
Right.
The new prosecutor comes in, and he does 3 corrupt things. He dismisses the Soros case. He dismisses the Biden case a couple months later, and he dismisses the Burisma case. The only thing I know Biden knew is that it was going to dismiss the Burisma case, but it had the effect of dismissing the other case as well. Frankly, I don't think Biden knew it, but I can't exclude it. It's never been investigated. But because he did it, maybe on purpose, maybe inadvertently, he cut off all kinds of evidence that would have explained the Steele dossier and made it probably impossible to ever have Mueller, because it would have been started to be revealed in 2016, and you would have seen Glenn Simpson, you would have seen some of the false stuff attributed to Russia. Remember, Steele was never in Russia. These people told me, how stupid are you people?
What we heard from Kurt Volker yesterday was that he has also been around a long time, spent a lot of time in Ukraine. He says that Joe Biden never did anything wrong.
He wouldn't know that.
He said, I'm just telling you what he said. This is an 8-page transcript that he just put out. Yeah, he said that he believed that you were being spun in the Ukraine, and that they were leading you to believe that there was, things going on that weren't going on, and that is what you ended up putting into this document envelope that we all just saw. Hold on, I let you talk. I just wanted to ask you this so that you can you can respond to it. And that he also wanted to he was concerned that some of what you were pursuing was going to make it look like Ukraine was not only involved in 2016, which I think everybody understands the desire to look into 2016, but that he didn't want it to appear in any way, if they started looking into Biden again, that the Ukraine was also trying to get involved in 2020. He was very concerned that there might be that confluence that would really reflect badly on this new government that wanted reform.
Well, Kurt never said that to me. Ever.
It's all in his transcript. It's
he
all
never
in
said
what
it to me. I don't know what's in his transcript. He never said it to me. Now, here's why Kurt is wrong. Kurt, first of all, with all due respect, he's a great diplomat. He doesn't know anything about investigating. Doesn't know anything about crime. Kurt never investigated it.
Well, he's a diplomat.
But he never investigated
That's what he does.
If he had said that to me, the first thing I would ask him was, show me the investigation. Yeah. They never investigated it. They're taking the word of people who have an interest in covering it up, and they're not investigating it. I asked for only one thing from them. I don't ask for a result. I asked for an investigation. For 3 years, these very dramatic allegations of corruption have not been investigated. And I beg to differ about Biden being 2020. Biden did what he did from 2014 to 2016. He did it as vice president of the United States. Let's just say it's true. Then it's one of the major sellouts by a vice president in the history of our country. How can a president of the United States not want that investigated? Remember, this all started, and our desire to have it investigated goes back to November of 2018. It ended, my investigation ended in March of 2018. Go look at the documents. I investigated this for a sole purpose of defending Donald Trump.
I've heard you say
wanted it investigated for the sole purpose of Donald Trump. And at the time that I did it, Martha, I got to finish the final thought, because it's one of the reasons why they're lying. At the time I began this investigation, and at the time I ended it, he was not a presidential candidate. In November of 2018, when the first... How did I know that in November of 2018?
No, I understand what you're saying.
And tell me why.
I'm just saying that the concern is that...
But the concern is fraudulent. The concern is political spin. How would I say, as a lawyer, in 2018, that they're explaining to me how the crime that my client is being investigated for was committed by others, and the vice president of the United States committed a very big crime? I'm supposed to say, I'm not going to investigate that because Joe Biden is sitting at home thinking of running for the president of the United States 2 years later? Isn't that ridiculous?
I think it's a good point. I understand what you're saying.
The Democrats are covering up corruption. massive corruption.
But don't you understand?
Of
people
course
look at
I
the situation
understand it.
that people say, I understand completely that you want to look into, and Bill Barr wants to look into, and the president wants to look into the origins of the 2016 investigation.
And what about Joe Biden's corruption in 2016?
Okay, but that triggers something different.
Yes.
He is running for president against the current president, President Trump, and it triggers concern that what is being requested is a little bit of a dig to open this. Everybody knows that the Hunter Biden situation is very sensitive. It's something that was absolutely going to come up during the course of this whole investigation.
It's very corrupt. It's not sensitive.
There are different elements to the Hunter Biden story. Okay, and you know that. All right, listen.
You have to be naive not to think that.
All right, I've been saying I'm going to bring up these text messages. This is from July 25th. Kurt Volker.
I'm sorry, the date. I got it.
July 25.
I got involved.
July 25. Kurt Volker to Andrei Yermak, who is associate of Zelensky. Right, exactly. Kurt Volker says, good lunch, thanks. Heard from White House, assuming President Zelensky convinces Trump he will investigate, get to the bottom of what happened in 2016, we will nail down a date for a visit in Washington. Good luck, see you tomorrow. So that's all.
That's very good.
You're happy with that?
Well, doesn't it say 2016?
This is, yes, absolutely.
It doesn't say 2020.
Then it goes on.
Martha, it doesn't say President Trump wants you to interfere in the 2020 election. It says President Trump wants you to investigate substantial allegations of federal crimes partially committed in Ukraine by high-level American officials. Exactly what an honest president should do, and exactly what Obama didn't do 5 years ago that could have stopped the whole thing.
One thing that you guys have absolutely succeeded in doing is pushing this to the forefront, and I think that it already is fleshing out this question. You should be delighted, as you said you are, because now the prosecutor is going to do another 15 minutes.
I'm going to tell you another thing.
15 cases.
I never investigated China for the very reason that you'd criticize me for investigating China, because you may think the link.
I didn't criticize you.
No, you would. China. I mean, they would. The media would criticize me. Look, I'm getting criticized for investigating a situation in which he put himself. I didn't go pay the bribe. I didn't know about Joe Biden when this information was given to me. I'm being criticized for investigating that. Imagine if I started investigating China. I know I could prove China.
Have you looked into China?
I have not investigated China.
Have you talked to people in China about Joe Biden?
So I convicted the commissioner of the mafia, 1,000 mafia members, Biden, Boesky, 200 crooked politicians, Democrats and Republicans. Would you give me credit for having a nose for corruption and crime?
I absolutely give you credit for having a nose for corruption and crime.
I can smell it. Here's what I smell. China is a bigger sellout than Ukraine. I can't prove it. And the Democratic Party is scared out of their minds because this pay-for-play scheme doesn't just involve Biden. The big question that has to be asked is in 2015, when the New York Times first exposed the enormous conflict that Biden had in Ukraine and criticized him, how could you have your son taking money from a corrupt oligarch?
He was asked about it many times.
Why didn't Obama stop it? Any honest president would have stopped it.
There are indications that they were concerned in the Obama White House about it, that they talked to him about it several times.
But why didn't they stop it?
Didn't want to step in.
Why?
Maybe they wish they had.
Because they have no sense of ethics.
Maybe they wish they had.
Let me ask you something. Is this very similar to Hillary and Clinton Foundation?
Let me just stay with this for one moment.
Is it similar to Hillary and Clinton Foundation?
Absolutely, there are parallels.
Are we starting to see a pattern now?
Perhaps.
Is it possible if we break this open, we're going to find out the Obama administration might be one of the more corrupt administrations in a very long. Is it possible?
We'll see. I mean, we're going to follow.
And is it possible the Democrats? Is it possible the Democrats would cover that up and fight for their lives and have Schiff going out, violating laws in order to frame the president of the United States? And make no mistake about it, the president of the United States is extremely serious, and there are lawyers working on it right now about suing those guys directly, individually.
Yeah.
Not a joke, not a threat. It's a difficult legal endeavor, and we've got lawyers working on it as we speak. And thank you, Schiff, because you keep lying every day. He knew about the whistleblower, and he lied about it.
We've reported that. Let me ask you this. I guess a lot of people look at the situation from the State Department. Let me ask you a question. From the State Department to all of these diplomats who had a lot of experience in Ukraine and spent many years there, who feel very differently about the situation than you do. That they don't see under the rocks what you see under the rocks.
Well, maybe if they had seen under the rocks what I see under the rocks, it wouldn't be going on in Ukraine.
Maybe it wouldn't, and maybe you're going to fix it all.
Have they done
maybe you're going to fix it all.
I'm not going to say I'm going to fix it all. Maybe Donald Trump is going to fix it all. because he's a disruptive president who knows how to break up the swamp. Rudy Giuliani's not going to fix it. Donald Trump is going to fix it. And the reason he's president of the United States and they're just walking around with their suits on and haven't done a damn thing about corruption in Ukraine except to contribute to it. Do you know what they say in the Ukraine when we talk about corruption? They say, bull. You had Joe Biden pulling down
I'm sure they do. I mean,
they think we're the biggest hypocrites. Don't you think an American president has to crack that open?
Let me ask you something.
And do you think he's going to crack it open with the very diplomats that couldn't find it in the first place?
Maybe President Trump is going to solve all of the corruption in the Ukraine.
No, he's not.
You are going to. You just said he was.
He's got to solve the American
corruption. You said, I'm not going to do it. He's going to do it.
The American corruption
has to be solved. I was just repeating what you said. So a lot of people look at the situation and they say, what exactly are you doing in this situation? This is a State Department, we have an ambassadorial level that's involved in all of this. Why are you the president's personal attorney? What is your personal mission? What's your mission?
To disrupt the world. My mission is to defend my client in the best traditions of the legal profession.
So it's in the interest of your client to find out what happened with Joe Biden and Burisma, not the country. Please,
can we that's a mischaracterization, Martha.
Well, you tell me.
It's in the best interest of my client to unravel the corruption in the Ukraine, which involved mostly collusion in the election, into which Joe Biden inserted himself.
But isn't that what Bill Barr is doing? Isn't that his job?
Well, Bill Barr wasn't there when I was doing it.
What is different from your role and Bill Barr's role?
There was no Bill Barr when I did it.
What is the difference between what you're currently doing?
Did you hear what I just said? There was no Bill Barr.
You started before he did. I get it.
Bill Barr wasn't there. I started the investigation in November of 2018.
No, I understand all that.
I ended the investigation in March of 2018. Every fact that I have goes back to then. How could it possibly be to affect the 2020 election? How would I have known back then that he was going to run? And why would I have not investigated him if he was central to the whole story? And they gave it to me. I was going to say, no, take the Biden thing, put it aside, because the American press will attack me if I go after that.
Well, you know what? It's going to be very, I mean,
But I'm very discouraged that somebody has to re-examine why this wasn't stopped in 2015, because it could have been stopped.
You're doing it. You're doing it.
If we had an honest president.